Welcome back, Agent. Let's discuss sending emails. The yellow mission returned back an email address, info@thegoldbugs.com. Let's explore how we can use Python to send and receive emails from this email address. To send emails with Python, we need to manually go through the steps of connecting to an email server, confirming that connection, setting a protocol, logging on to your email account, and then sending the message. Fortunately, the built-in smtplib library in Python makes these steps just simple function calls. Every major email provider has their own SMTP, that is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, server. Essentially, that's a domain name where you need to connect to if you want to perform these steps manually. We'll be using Gmail for our example. Because we'll be using a Gmail account, we're also going to need to generate an app password instead of our normal password, which is also going to require us to enable two-factor authentication. This basically is just to let Gmail know that the Python script attempting to access our account is authorized by us. Let's explore this entire process in a Jupyter Notebook. We'll begin by importing the SMTP, that's a Simple Mail Transfer Protocol library, so SMTP-lib. And then what we're going to do is create an SMTP object for a server. And you can look at the table in the corresponding notebook for your server domain name, but we'll be using Gmail as our server. So we'll say SMTP object is equal to SMTP-lib, and we'll call SMTP function off of this, and then we'll provide the actual domain server, which is smtp.gmail.com. And then for Gmail, we can also provide a port number, so we'll try 587. If for some reason the number 587 doesn't work, and when you try using this and running this, you get back some sort of error, something else you can try is using the port number 465. If that also doesn't work, you can try not passing in any number for the port number. Keep in mind, if you have a firewall or antivirus, that may prevent your Python script from trying to reach out and connect over the internet. The next step we need to do is run an ehlo method command, which greets the server and establishes the connection. This method call should be done directly after creating the object, so make sure you follow these steps exactly. Calling it after other methods will basically result in errors in connecting later on. So right after you create the object, the very next line should be running this ehlo. So we'll say grab our object and run ehlo, which essentially greets the server. And when you run this, you should see some sort of code that starts with 250, and this basically says that we had a successful connection. Now, when using the port 587, this means you're using TLS encryption. So basically, all email as you send it is encrypted. That way, people can't read your emails without being the actual recipient. And in order to actually initiate this sort of encryption, we're going to grab our object again, SMTP object, and then we'll call the method startTLS. If you ended up using the port 465, you can basically skip this step because that means you're using SSL. Okay, you should have gotten a code 220 and it says ready to start TLS. Now it's time to set up the email and the passwords. Keep in mind, you should never save the raw string of your password or email in a script, because basically that means that anyone that sees this script will be able to then see your email and password. Instead, what you should do is try using the input function to get that information. If you don't want your password to be visible when you're typing it in, you can also use the built-in getPass library that will hide your password as you type it in. To further explain what we mean by this, let's imagine we use the input function to save a password. So we will say, what is your password? And let's say we're going to save this to some variable called password. If we were to run this, if I were to type my password here, it would be visible to the user. So whatever I type here, someone's going to be able to see it if they're watching my computer. Now, a better way of doing this is say import getPass, and then once you've done that, we'll say password is equal to, and you'll run getPass.getPass, and you should be saving this to a variable. And then we can provide password, please. And then if we run this and we start typing something, you'll notice that it's invisible. And you can type a really long password here, and even after you run it, it won't really indicate how long your password was. So this is a secure way to pass in information for people that are viewing your computer directly. So just in case that happens, you should be using the get pass instead of just a simple input. It really depends on how secure you want your script to be or your notebook to be, but what you should never do is just save your password as a variable directly. So you should never just do something like this, password, and then say, password 123. That's pretty insecure and pretty dangerous, so you may end up losing your password that way. Okay, now let's go over a second step, and this is specifically for Gmail users, where we need to generate an app password instead of our normal email password. And this also requires enabling two-step authentication. So there's a link in the notebook that you can follow as far as the instructions to set up two-step factor authentication as well as the app password. So let's go to that link right now. So if you go to that link, it will take you to sign in using app passwords. And it will say right here, if you use two-step verification, so click on that two-step verification link, and we need to turn on two-step verification. So this is actually quite simple. Just go to the two-step verification page here. You might have to sign into your Google account, select Get Started, and then follow the step-by-step process. So if you click here on two-step verification, it'll say protect your account with two-step verification, and I actually recommend doing this anyways, even if you don't intend to use Python for your email, because it's just safer for your email address. So click Get Started. Once you've signed in, you should see something that looks like this, and that basically sets up your phone number as the second factor of authentication. So you're going to need to do this if you want to be able to send and receive emails with Python on a Gmail account. So you'll go ahead and type in the phone number that you want to use, and they'll confirm you with either a text message or a phone call, and you'll go through those steps, and then you'll have two-step verification ready to go. If you already have two-step verification, you won't actually see this pop up. Instead, it'll just take you to your securities page in Gmail, and that basically indicates that you're actually ready to go. You already had two-step verification. So you can confirm that if you've ever received some sort of security code on your phone from Gmail. So that's setting up two-step verification. Once you've done that, we'll be able to set up our app password. So let's go back to that link. And this is the link to sign in using app passwords. So we'll scroll down here, and we're going to now generate an app password. We'll open this, and we'll click this app passwords page. And there's some instructions here on how to generate them. Go ahead and click on app passwords. If you get this result here, it means that you have not set up two-factor authentication, and you need to go back and do that. So let's go ahead and show you what it looks like when you have set up two-factor authentication. With two-step verification authorized, you'll have this app passwords page. You'll go ahead and select an app. In this case, we want to use our Mail app. So that's the app we want to interact with, and we can select a device. We will select our custom name, and this will just be something like script, Python, or really whatever you want to call it, just something memorable so you can understand why you generated this app password. Then hit generate, and it will generate an app password for you. So you will copy this and save it somewhere on your computer, because that's the password we're going to be using for our actual login. So we'll come back here to our notebook, and let's actually set up our email. So we'll show you how to use getPass, just to remind you. We'll say getPass, email. We will say password is equal to getPass.getPass password. And then finally, we will say SMTP object. We'll call the login method from that email and password. So we're going to run this. So go ahead and type in your email address. In this case, I'm typing in a Gmail address. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in that app password. So again, this is not your normal Gmail password. This is the app password. So once you've done that, you should see a code indicating that it was accepted. Now we're able to send email. Keep in mind, if you stop right here, walk away from your computer for a few hours, and then come back, you may be disconnected just because it took so long. So keep that in mind. You're going to want to, if you're in the notebook setting, do all your sending of your email immediately after logging in. Otherwise, you may get disconnected and you'll have to regenerate another app password. So we can basically send an email. we're going to need a couple of things. We will need a from address, so we need to indicate where the actual email is coming from. This is going just to be your email again, so we'll say from address is equal to my email. We need a to address, and that's going to be the email address that you want to send it to. So that's the email of your recipient. I will send myself an email here. And then the subject line. So we'll have that be an input. So enter the subject line, and then we'll have the actual body or message. We can also have that be input. Enter the body, message. And then the way the message is constructed is it has to be subject, colon, space, then the actual subject itself, and then a new line, and that indicates that the subject has stopped, and then you paste in the rest of the message. Because the way this actual function is going to work is it's going to accept one giant string to indicate both the subject and the message body. And in order to differentiate between the subject and the message, it needs this sort of format. Subject, colon, space, then the actual subject title, and then a new line, and then the rest of your message. So once you've done that, you'll say SMTP object, you'll call the send mail method off of this, and then you'll pass in your from address, your to address, so that's the address you're sending to, and then the actual string message. So I'm sending right now an address from myself to myself. I recommend you just do the same, that way you can quickly check it once you log in. But let's run this. We'll enter the subject line, and let's just enter subject new test Python, whatever really you want, and then enter the body message, hello, this is a test, or again, whatever you want to send. Run that, and right now it's sending it. If you get back an empty dictionary, that means the sending was successful. So you should get something like this back. If you're getting an error, it's most likely having to do with either your connection up here or your actual email and password combination. Once you've been able to do that, you'll want to quit and close your session. So you will say SMTP object.quit, and that will now close my connection. Let's log in using our browser to see if we've received the message, and then later on we'll see how we could do that same sort of functionality with Python. So I'm going to now go to my Gmail inbox, and in my Gmail inbox I can see sent 0 minutes ago is a message from myself, so blind carbon copy me, hello, this is a test, and the title is new test Python. Looks like it was all successful. Excellent work so far. We'll see you in the next lesson where we discuss how to do this sort of checking automatically with Python.